Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Becomes the Ultimate Ninja Sage of UA High Movie 1. Before we start, please go support President Thanos for writing that awesome fanfic. Izuku Midoriya was an ordinary kid, though he was what most other children called the weird one. He never grew out of his nature phase. While the others were inside playing video games or going further into the city to shop, he was in parks, woods, any place he could find with real grass and trees. He didn't have much company, though he didn't need it. The birds, bugs, squirrels, and other animals were all he needed. But he did have one thing in common with his classmates: he wanted to be a hero. He would become the greatest hero he could, and show the world why nature and its protectors shouldn't be messed with. What will to Pony Tsunotori in the story? Chapter 1. It was a warm and sunny day outside. People were walking to and from stores. Kids were running around having fun before school started, and a green-haired boy named Izuku Midoriya was sitting on a large rock meditating. Well, he was until a rock was thrown at the back of his head, though he sensed it and caught it. He opened his eyes and turned around, seeing what he expected. A bunch of younger students were standing a small distance away, teasing him. Izuku: really, guys? Can I meditate in peace? Student 1: not when you're in our park. Izuku: this is the first time I've seen any of you here, and I've been using this rock to meditate for years. Student 2: well, duh, we just claimed it today. Izuku sighed. Izuku yelling, Kakin. S1: Kakin? Who's Kakin? Then another one started to look nervous. S3: gee guys, we need to go in now. S2: why? You scared of one guy, coward? S3: when that guy is Bakugo? Yes. S1: wait, Bakugo? Pfft. He wouldn't be friends with this loser. Yelling: what did you just call him, you damn extra? The leader of the group slowly turned around to see the angry blonde boy known as Katsuki Bakugo. He planted his fist into his palm, setting off tiny explosions as he did so. Bakugo: say it louder, numbskull. S1: oh, Bakugo, hey. IW was just saying how I'm a loser, see, compared to you. Bakugo: you sure? The boy nodded quickly. Bakugo: you better not be lying to me. S1: I'm not, I swear. Bakugo: good, now scram. Without another word, the group all ran from park. Bakugo then turned to Izuku. Bakugo: hey, nerd, school's gonna start soon, and you know what today is. Izuku: oh, it's high school selection day, right? Bakugo smirked and nodded. Bakugo: today we sign up and make our decision to go to UA official. Izuku hopped off the rock, making a bird which had landed on his shoulder fly away. Izuku: well, let's go then. He ran past Bakugo, who quickly followed behind him, though he could pass Izuku. Bakugo yelling: no using your quirk to make you faster. Izuku looked behind him to look at Bakugo, only for the blonde to see an orange coloring around Izuku's eyes. Bakugo yelling: I knew it. Izuku then smirked and went faster, leaving Bakugo in his dust. Izuku yelling: what's wrong, Kakin? Can't keep up with my measly sage mode? Bakugo yelling: you already know I can't, you damn nerd. Izuku chuckled and slowed down. The two then ran to their school together. The teacher, Mr. Everyone, was about to start talking when suddenly the door to the classroom flew open, revealing two out-of-breath boys, Izuku and Bakugo. Izuku: we're pant late, Kakin. Pant. Bakugo: I know, pant, nerd. Mr. Everyone: just sit down, boys. INB, yes, sir. The two quickly made their way to their seats. Mr. Everyone: as I was about to say, today is a very special day. Today, you will be choosing your future careers. But what am I kidding? You all want to be heroes. He then threw a stack of papers in the air as everyone cheered, using their quirks. That was until Bakugo slammed his foot onto his desk. Bakugo: don't lump me and Izuku in with these losers, teach. Mr. Everyone then took a look at the one paper he didn't throw. Mr. Everyone: ah, yes. It says here that you and Midoriya are planning to go to UA. That's quite the lofty goal. Bakugo scoffed. Bakugo. We aced the mock tests and have trained our quirks for the practical. Random classmate. What? It's illegal to use your quirk without a hero or business license. Bakugo. Not when you go to a quirk gym. Mr. Everett1. You mean the one that opened up last month? Izuku. Yeah, that's the one we've gone there every day since it did. Mr. Everett1. I see. With that level of commitment, I'm sure the two of you will become fine heroes. Bakugo, damn rig. A notebook then made contact with the back of his head. Izuku. Can you please stop trying to antagonize everyone? Bakugo then sat down and grumbled out a reluctant agreement. The two were walking back to their respective houses, though they were taking a longer route than usual. Izuku. Now all we need to do is train for 10 months until the exam. Bakugo. Yeah, we should head to the gym as soon as we're out of these uniforms. Bakugo suddenly pushed Izuku away as a slime-like substance charged at them. Will they be able to fight off this attack? Only time will tell. Chapter 2. Bakugo, yelling. Get out of the wa! Izuku stumbled back as a slime-like man charged out of an alley. The man quickly hopped onto Bakugo, who was trying to use his explosions to escape. Slime. Oh, a nice medium-sized meat bag and such a good quirk too. I think I'll take you as my new body for a while. Izuku. Gee, get off of him. Izuku swung at the slime man, only for his hand to get stuck. Slime. Did you really think that? Suddenly an invisible force impacted where Izuku punched and an area around it too. The slime man was knocked backwards a little and let go of Bakugo. When the ash blonde looked up, he noticed an orange coloring fading from Izuku's face. Izuku. That was the last I had from this morning. Good thing I saved a little, huh? Bakugo. Yeah. But now we can't fight him. My explosions did nothing and he isn't going to give us enough time for you to collect any energy. Izuku. Well, it's a good thing we don't have to fight him. Bakugo. What? Izuku. I sense someone coming from the sewers beneath. I recognize this presence. Izuku smiled wide. Izuku yelling. We have nothing to fear, why? The manhole behind them flew into the air and a man leapt after it. The man landed in front of Izuku and Bakugo. Because I am here. The man was 7 feet tall, his blonde hair stood tall, his smile was blinding. This man was Japan's one hero, the symbol of peace. This man was All Might. Bakugo. You could have said he was coming, nerd. Izuku. Yeah, but this was more fun. Slime. All Might shit. He turned to run but All Might appeared in front of him. All Might. NUHUH, evildoer smash. He punched the slime man hard enough to scatter him and knock him out. After that he emptied 2 soda bottles and handed each to the boys. All Might. Young Midoriya, young Bakugo, if you could get this man into these bottles it would be a big help. Bakugo. Sure. Izuku, alright. Half an hour later and the last of the slime had been bottled. They handed the bottles back to All Might. All Might. Thank you, I'll be a little late tonight so feel free to start training without me. We have a couple others joining us starting tonight. Bakugo. Who? All Might. You shall find out later. Bye for now, boys. He then leapt off. Izuku. Hopefully we can get along with these new people. Bakugo. Doesn't matter. If they train good we can get along at UA. Izuku. We'll see. Izuku and Bakugo were training at Takoba Municipal Beach. Izuku was sitting on top of a trash pile, trying to pull in nature energy faster. Bakugo was doing workouts to sweat as much as he could and set off large explosions, trying to increase his own resistance. Izuku. He's coming in hot. Bakugo. Got enough for Slug? Izuku. Yeah. I'll catch him. Bakugo watched as thick black lines appeared under Izuku's eyes and a black target-looking mark appeared on his forehead. From his back 2 masses of wood extended and went down to the ground. He extended some root-like pieces down to anchor himself before more wood grew upwards and shaped into a net of sorts. Just a second after, All Might flew into the net. All Might. You caught me this time, young Midoriya, you're getting faster. Izuku. Just a little. Suddenly a vine pulled him from his trash pile. Bakugo, yelling. The hell? He blasted over to see what was going on, to see two girls. One with hooves for feet and horns on her head, and another with vines for hair. The one with vines had Izuku dangled upside down. Let All Might go. Izuku. Can't. Used up all my nature energy making that construct. Well, how do you get more? She shook Izuku, trying to get information. Izuku. By being still. Bakugo. Let him go. All Might's training us too. The man in question finally freed himself from Izuku's wooden net. Preposterous. There is no way All Might's students would trap him. All Might. On the contrary, young Shiozaki. It's actually a challenge I gave to him myself. Shiozaki. Why? All Might. To encourage him to get faster with his quirk. Shiozaki. Do they know of the thing? INB. One for all? Shiozaki. I thought it was a secret. All Might. It is. But these two helped me when I needed it, so I entrusted the secret to them. Shiozaki. How? All Might patted Izuku's back. All Might. He used his quirk to heal a very bad wound. Before he did, my heroing was limited to 3 hours a day, now it's up to 8. Izuku. Speaking of which, how is it? All Might. No pain, no discomfort. I even visited my doctor, and he said that what you were able to heal has no risk of opening again. Then the girl with the horns tugged on the man's shirt and spoke in English. Mr. All Might, what's going on? All Might. These are the other students I mentioned, young Tsunotori. They also know of One for All. Izuku. You speak English? Bakugo. What the buck are you all saying? Izuku. Give us a second, Kaken. Tsunotori. Yes, I'm American. Izuku. She's American. How good is your Japanese? Tsunotori. Not good. I can speak the basics but nothing else. Izuku. I'll help. Bakugo. When the hell did you learn English? Izuku. My dad. Bakugo. Well, at least that bastard taught you one good thing. Izuku chuckled. Izuku. Yeah. Shiozaki. I don't mean to pry, but I must ask, what happened to your father? Izuku shrugged. Izuku. Don't know. He just up and left one day when I was 5. It's like he disappeared off the face of the planet. All Might. Alright, we've wasted enough time. Let's start training. Chapter 3. 10 months had passed in the blink of an eye, and now it was time for the UA entrance exams. Izuku had gotten there later than Bakugo, so he was alone. He stood at the front gate for a second, taking in the view of the building. Izuku. I can't believe I'm finally here. He took one last glance look around before walking past the gate. He made his way into the exam building and entered the door for the hero course. The receptionist handed him his card and he went to his assigned seat. When he got there, he found he was seated next to Bakugo. Izuku. Hey, Kaken. Bakugo. What took you so long? Izuku. Mom made me eat a big breakfast. Bakugo smirked. Bakugo. Sounds like Aunt Inko, alright. Izuku. Yeah. I think I'm gonna use Toad for the exam. Bakugo. Better start meditating then. Izuku. Right. Izuku slid out of his chair, crossed his legs, and put his hands in his lap. He began pulling in nature energy, but in doing so stopped paying attention to his surroundings for a few minutes. And you with the unkempt green hair. This pulled Izuku's attention from his task. He turned to face the boy who called him out. Izuku. Yes? Why aren't you sitting in your seat? It's highly unprofessional that, and you should be focused on present mic. If you're not going to take this seriously, then leave. Izuku. My quirk requires time to prepare. I am simply preparing. I see. He sat down. Present mic. With that over, the 4th robot is worth 0 points. Now get going. Izuku stood up. Izuku. What's the exam? Bakugo. Destroying robots. Let's go. Izuku. Right. All the participants left the auditorium and made their way to their assigned exam areas. Along the way, Izuku and Bakugo had to part ways. Eventually, Izuku made it to his. He noticed Shiozaki in the distance and walked over to her. Izuku. Hey Shiozaki. You okay? She nodded. Shiozaki. I didn't think we'd have to destroy robots. My vines are tough, but they aren't invincible. May the Lord help me. She put her hands together and said a quick prayer to calm her nerves. Shiozaki. How much energy do you have? Izuku. I was only able to get to half of my limit during the orientation. Shiozaki. That may be enough. Izuku. I hope it is. I'm using Toad just to be safe though. Shiozaki. Toad is the one with the orange coloring, right? Izuku nodded. Izuku. Yeah. Hopefully the oil can slow down the robots, or else I'll be relying on the frog Kumite. Shiozaki. What? Izuku. It's the name I gave the barrier thing have when I'm using Toad. She nodded in acknowledgement. Suddenly President Mick's voice could be heard. President Mike. Alright, the exam is about to begin. Remember, attacking fellow participants is subject for disqualification. Now 3, 2, 1, go. The orange marks of Toad's Sage Mode surrounded Izuku's eyes as the gates to the fake city opened. He ran forward and entered the city in the middle of everyone else. He noticed no one was checking the alleyways, so he decided he would. He ran down the first he saw and immediately ran into a three-pointer. Izuku. Well, hello? He sent a punch to its head, the added force of his frog Kumite knocking the head from the body. Izuku. 1 down. Countless to go. He ran from the alley to find quite the sight. A boy with purple hair was surrounded by robots who were about to attack him. In hopes to stop them, Izuku placed his hands together, focused some nature energy to his throat, shot about 5 gallons of oil from his throat. Once it hit the robots, the oil caused them to short-circuit, bagging him a bunch more points. He walked over and extended his hand to the boy who swatted it away. I don't need your help. You and your powerful quirk. Izuku. Fine then, how about this? He walked to a three-pointer and took off its rocket launcher. He walked back over and gave it to the boy. Izuku. Use this. Find the wires to shoot it and use it. Hopefully you'll get in. Hopefully? Izuku. I want to see you improve. You came here with 0 physical training, that won't cut it. Get in and train. Okay? Okay. Good luck. Izuku. You too. The boy turned and ran off. Izuku ran in another direction, not wanting to hurt the boy's chances. Nizu. Quite the interesting bunch this year. The UA staff were watching the exam from an observation room. Midnight. Some charming young men are present as well. I hope they get in. Nizu. Ms. Kiyama, please do refrain from another scandal. UA barely survived the last one. Midnight. Not my fault the kid's dad was a loser. Cementas. He was on the board of directors for the Safety Commission. We're all lucky Nizu has the connections he does. Aizawa. Nizu. That green-haired boy, I'm curious. Nizu typed on his computer and pulled up a file. Nizu. Ah. Izuku Midoriya. Quirk Sage. It lets him collect what he and the doctors call nature energy and use it to enhance himself. When using it, he enters what he calls Sage Mode. Right now it seems he's using what's known as Toad Sage Mode. Aizawa. What are the others? Nizu. Snake and Slug. Aizawa. His quirk is powerful. What's the downside? Nizu. Let's see. He read more on the file. Nizu. Oh my. Quite the danger here. Snipe. It can't possibly be that bad. Nizu. I'm afraid it is. If he takes in too much, he'll turn to stone. It's reversible if it doesn't spread above his hands and feet, but the point of no return is unknown. Aizawa. I want him in my class. Nizu. Alright. President Mike. And the exam is over, please make your way to the exit, or if you're injured, find your way to recovery girl. Izuku. Thank God. The giant zero-pointer stopped in its tracks just mere inches from where Izuku was. He had gotten stuck under some rubble when it first appeared. Recovery Girl made her way over to him eventually. Recovery Girl. Oh my sonny! Can you get out or do you need help? Izuku. I can get out, but it'll take a few minutes. I would like help, however. Recovery Girl nodded and radioed for help. Cementos appeared after a couple minutes and got the rubble off. Recovery Girl then healed Izuku. Recovery Girl. Now be careful out there, sonny. Have a nice afternoon. Izuku smiled and nodded. Izuku. Thanks. You too. He then left Yue to go home and wait for his letter. Chapter 4. Izuku had passed and now both he and Bakugo stood in front of Yue's gates once more, now dressed in the school uniform and ready for classes. Izuku. It's hard to believe we actually did it. We made it into Yue. Bakugo. Yeah. Now I have to listen to you nerd out for 3 more years. Izuku laughed. Izuku. Like you could get rid of me anyway, Kaken. Bakugo let out a small chuckle. Bakugo. Let's go before we're late. Izuku. Right. With that said, they both walked into the building. On their way to their classroom, they noticed a boy with fat lips carry a shorter boy with purple balls for hair into the 1B classroom. Yelling, "Put me down, how dare you take me from those hot babes!" Izuku. At least we don't have class with him. Bakugo. Yeah. After another minute they reached their door, labeled 1A, and walked inside. Inside they found many of their classmates already there. The blue-haired boy from the entrance exam was currently scolding a bird-headed boy who was sitting on a desk. Bakugo. 4 eyes. He then turned to the newcomers and rushed over. That is extremely rude and unprofessional. Bakugo. What middle school did you go to? I attended semi-private academy. Bakugo. Ah. That explains the stick-up-your-ass 4 eyes. My name is Tenya Ida. Bakugo. 4 eyes. Ida. Tenya Ida. Bakugo. 4 eyes. Ida. Tenya Ida. Bakugo. Tenya Ida. Ida 4 eyes. Bakugo. 4 eyes it is. Nice to meet ya. He then walked past Ida, Izuku following suit. Izuku then noticed Tsunotori and Ibara sitting together and walked over. Izuku. Hey. Ibara. Hello, Midoriya. Tsunotori. Greetings. I am happy we are together. Izuku smiled. Izuku. Your Japanese is getting better. Tsunotori. Thanks for your tutoring. Izuku nodded and sat down, Bakugo joining them after a couple minutes. Before long every classmate had entered the room. After another minute the door slid open and a yellow sleeping bag slithered into the room. After that it stood up and spun around to reveal a tired-looking man. The man quickly emptied what appeared to be a pouch of applesauce and let the sleeping bag fall off of him. My name is Shota Aizawa and I will be your homeroom teacher for the next 3 years. He pulled out 2 boxes and placed them on the front podium. Aizawa. These are your P uniforms. Grab them, change, and meet me at the P grounds outside in 10 minutes. The man then left the room. The class looked around at each other in confusion for a few seconds before doing as they were told. Izuku, Bakugo, Tsunotori, and Ibara had gotten outside first. Aizawa. Well, looks like some of you know how fast you should take. Izuku. Yeah, our trainer was pretty specific on being early. Aizawa smirked. Aizawa. Me and your trainer might get along. Tsunotori. Sorry. Don't understand. Aizawa. You are Tsunotori. Correct? She nodded. Aizawa. You can come to me or President Mike for questions if you don't understand something. Tsunotori. Okay. Soon the rest of the class emerged from the building and walked over. Aizawa. While you all did make it on time, you're too slow. Get better. Now on to the reason we're out here. You are going to be doing quirk apprehension tests, like the fitness tests you took in junior high, but with your quirks. A girl with brown hair raised her hand. Aizawa. Yes, Uraraka? Uraraka. Mr. Aizawa, sir, we'll miss orientation if we do this. Aizawa. Do you think Yue is able to consistently pump out top pros because we follow the norm? No. Us teachers are allowed to go as far off the regular curriculum as we deem necessary. Bakugo, what was your softball record in junior high? Bakugo. Like 67 meters, why? Aizawa pulled out a softball. Aizawa. Throw one now, only this time use your quirk. Bakugo. PSSH, this'll be easy. He walked over and took the ball. He stepped into the circle, wooed back, and threw the ball while adding an explosion to the end, sending the ball flying. Aizawa held up a tablet showing Bakugo's score, 207.5 meters. Aizawa. That is what we're doing. We really get to use our quirks? This'll be so fun. Aizawa. Fun? You think this'll be fun, Ashido? Fine then, whoever gets less points gets expelled. Uraraka. That's unfair. Aizawa. Unfair? Are crimes fair? Are natural disasters fair? Life itself is inherently unfair. Now line up. Izuku. Sir. Is it possible I can do the tests after everyone else? Aizawa. What for? Izuku. My quirk needs time. I know you're a little strict on time, but I figured you'd want to see my best. Aizawa. Fine. Sit off to the side. Izuku. Thank you, sir. Izuku stepped off to the side and sat down cross-legged, put his hands in his lap, and began taking in nature energy. Partway through the test, another girl raised her hand. Aizawa. Yes, Adri? Tsu. Why is he sitting out? Kero. Aizawa. His quirk needs him to build up energy. Ida. Energy? What kind of energy? Aizawa. His file calls it nature energy. Ask him for more details. Now keep it moving. Izuku opened his eyes. Aizawa. Ready? Izuku. Yeah. A purple marking appeared on the inside sides of his eyes that dipped down to a point along the nose. His eyes became yellowish with slit pupils. Snake Sage mode was active. Izuku. Let's go. He used his enhanced strength to score 5th in the ball throw, his enhanced speed and slithering movements to score 6th in the 50-yard dash. The technique he calls inorganic animation helped with getting 1st in the grip strength test. His energy ran out partway through, so he gained average scores for the rest. Aizawa. Now that Midoriya is done, we can see your scores. He clicked a button and a projection appeared. Izuku looked it over and saw he got 5th. Unfortunately, a girl named Hagakure got last. Hagakure. Ah, no. Aizawa. Oh, and the part about getting expelled? I lied. It was a rational deception to get you all to do your best. Yayorozu. Oh, I figured everyone else knew. Should I have said something? After a collective agreement from the class, Aizawa spoke up again. Aizawa. I'm gonna take a nap. There's syllabi on my desk. Pick them up when you get back. After that, just wait until lunch and try not to kill each other. With that said, the class all went inside, and Izuku had survived his first day at UA. Chapter 5. The entire class was excited, so excited that even Shiozaki, the most put together of the class, was visibly shaking. This excitement is understandable though, today was their first practical heroics lesson after all. Kaminari. I wonder who our teacher is. Ojiro. I hope it isn't someone like Aizawa. I don't feel like risking expulsion again. Uraraka. Maybe it's that new staff member everyone has been talking about. Jairu. That doesn't narrow it down. If UA hires underground heroes like Mr. Aizawa, then it could be anyone. Suddenly the door slammed open and a large, familiar figure walked inside. Wearing a suit that had been long since retired, All Might appeared. All Might. I am here, coming through the door like a normal person. As he walked to the podium, the class whispered in surprise over his appearance. All Might. Hello Class 1A, I am to be your teacher for any practical lesson from here on out. Ashido raised her hand. All Might. Yes? Ashido. What kind of training are we doing? All Might let out his signature laugh. All Might. Thank you for asking, young Ashido. He reached into the podium and pulled out a card. He held it out to let the class read. All Might. Today, we will be doing battle training, but what is a hero without their costume? He pressed a button on a remote, and 20 cases popped out of the wall. All Might. Designed by professional support companies using your submitted designs and quirk registries. No hero is complete without them. Find your number and put them on. After that, meet me at ground beta. With that said, he left the room once more and the class stood up. Nizu. Shouldn't you be at ground beta, All Might? He was sitting on a sofa in a staff room sipping some tea. All Might. Nah, I can get there in seconds. That, and I want to conserve as much of my time as possible. Nizu. Sips. Yes, I suppose that should be your priority. Well, since you're here, I have a question I would like to ask. All Might. Go ahead. Nizu. I won't judge your choice of successor. I'm sure Mississippi Tsunotori is a fine choice. My curiosity is about why you decided young Bakugo and Midoriya were people to entrust your secret. All Might. They saved my life. I was out of time in the middle of a fight. Young Bakugo stepped in to hold the villain off while young Midoriya healed me with his quirk. He did a good enough job that I have 8 hours now. Nizu. I see, though now I must ask, why conserve time when you have so much now? All Might. The more time I have, the more lives I can save after school gets out. Nizu. I see. I look forward to seeing those two grow, young Midoriya specifically. His quirk is amazing. All Might. Indeed. I must get going. Have a good day, Nizu sir. Nizu. You as well, All Might. The skinny man stood, changed to his muscle form, and ran from the room. Class 1A emerged from the hallway. All Might. They say clothes mocketh man, you all symbolize that quote to me, great costume designs. Where is young Midoriya? Bakugo. The nerd's coming. He's taking his time for some reason. As soon as Bakugo finished talking, Izuku's voice was heard from the hallway. Izuku. Sorry, took a minute strapping the pouch on. He walked out from the hallway revealing his hero costume. He was wearing a black jumpsuit, a green flak jacket, gray body armor with shoulder pads, and more gray armor on his forearms. The pouch he mentioned was a tan bag on the backside of his pants, which cranked with each step. He had a second strapped to his right leg. This but Izuku. Izuku. I'm here now. All Might. Perfect, now we may begin. This training will consist of 2-on-2 indoor battles. The class then erupted into a mass of questions which took the number 1 hero a few seconds to calm and minutes to answer. After he did, he had the students draw lots to pick partners. Izuku drew D along with Bakugo. Izuku. Seems like Slug might be the best. I defend while you go on the offensive, right, Kakin? Bakugo. Yeah, sounds good. I wonder who we're fighting, though. Izuku. Too bad we're indoors. I'd love to bust out my special move. Bakugo. You mean the move that uses all of your nature energy in one go? Yeah, that'd be sick. All Might. And the first match is Team A as the heroes and Team D as the villains. Both teams head down to the building. Team D will be given 5 minutes to plan while Team A memorizes the floor plan. With that, both teams went down to the building. Team A, Uraraka and Ibara, waved to the two as they entered. Izuku spoke up once they found the bomb. Izuku. Make a plan, I'll start meditating. He sat down and began to bring in energy. A few minutes went by and suddenly a loud noise brought Izuku out of his focus. Bakugo. Got enough? Izuku. Yeah. The thick markings of Slug Sage mode appeared on Izuku's face as he quickly surrounded the bomb in wood. Izuku. I'll stay here and keep this mode up by meditating. If I sense anyone other than you coming, I'll fight. Bakugo. Right. See you later. With that said, Bakugo sprinted out of the room and Izuku began to meditate again. He could sense the others in the building. He could even sense the immense power coming from All Might and Tsunotori back in the observation room. It seemed Bakugo had distracted himself with Ibara, allowing Uraraka to head to Izuku. Just as she made it to the doorway, he let her know she wasn't winning. Izuku. I can sense your every movement, Uraraka. Come any closer, and you'll be getting splinters. Uraraka. Sorry, but I really need to try. She charged in, making Izuku exit his meditation. He swung around and placed his hand on the ground. Izuku, wooden prison. From where she was, small wooden posts shot up around her, and then a solid wooden roof was created on top, leaving her in a wooden cage. Uraraka. Hey, since when could you do this? He stood and approached the cage. Izuku. Always could. I just haven't used slug around the class yet. All Might. Young Uraraka has been captured. Izuku. Now to help catch a. All Might. Young Bakugo has been captured. Izuku. Of course. He concentrated and senses Ibara getting closer. Izuku. No time like the present. He ran from the room, making sure to seal the door using wood. After a few more seconds he came across Ibara. Ibara. Give up, Midoriya. My vines are faster than your wood. Izuku. Nah. He charged forward, and Ibara sent vines at him, only for him to reach into his leg pouch and pull out a kunai. Using the small blade he began to cut through the vines she sent at him. He was pushed back until he felt something on his leg. He looked down to see a vine wrapped around his ankle. In the moment he was distracted, Ibara disarmed him and hung him from his ankle. She wrapped more vines around him, ensuring he couldn't move. Ibara. Where is the bomb? Izuku. I don't know. Here's my question, why hasn't All Might called the match yet? Ibara paused. He was right, why hadn't their teacher called that Izuku was captured? Then she noticed something. Izuku was losing his coloring, becoming more brownish. Izuku. Behind you. His face then suddenly resembled wood and a metal kunai was put to her throat. Izuku. Checkmate. All Might. Young Shiozaki has been captured. The villains when both teams come back, so we may discuss your performances. Izuku moved the kunai and subconsciously removed the wood from Uraraka's prison and the door. Ibara revealed Bakugo in a mass of vines and freed him. Ibara. What was that? Izuku. Wood clone. A recent discovery of mine. I've had them doing my chores for a month now. Bakugo. Listen here, salad hair. Yelling, how da. All Might. Can anyone tell me who the MVP of this match was? Yaoyorozu raised her hand. All Might. Yes, young Yaoyorozu? Yaoyorozu. I believe it was Midoriya, sir. Not only did he prematurely defend the weapon, he made sure his power was always as high as possible. He defeated Uraraka with ease and without harming her, and he used a power no one here has seen to fool Shiozaki. All Might. Well said, I couldn't have said it better. Now, onward to the next match. With that, Izuku's first practical lesson was finished. Chapter 6. It had been a week since their battle training. In that time, Class 1A had been keeping up with their studies and even got to choose their class representatives. They decided to vote to choose, with Izuku winning and Yaoyorozu coming in second place, making them the class rep and vice rep respectively. Now they were sitting in their classroom, waiting for their next practical heroics lesson. Aizawa walked into the room and over to the podium. Aizawa. I know you all must be wondering why I'm up here instead of All Might. It's because of today's training. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a card similar to the one All Might had the week before, only the text was different. Aizawa. You'll be doing rescue training at an off-campus facility with me, All Might, and one other hero observing you. No. He pressed a button for their costumes, making them pop out again. Aizawa. You can choose to wear your costumes or not, as you're not used to them and they could hinder your movement. Those of you wearing them, pick them up, those who aren't will just wear their PE uniforms. Now go, the bus is waiting. The class stood from their desks and did as they were told. A few minutes later, they walked out from the school and over to the bus where Aizawa was standing. Aizawa. Midoriya, as class rep, it's your duty to load them. Izuku nodded and stepped up to the bus doors. Izuku. Alright, please get on one at a time to avoid getting hurt. Feel free to sit where you want as long as there's room. The class walked past him one by one and onto the bus until he was the last one on. The last seat was next to Ibara, so he sat down. As he did, the bus began to drive off. Soon after the bus started moving, Tsu spoke up. Tsu. Midoriya. I often say what is on my mind, so may I ask you a question? Kero. Izuku looked up to face the frog girl. Izuku. Sure, Ajri, what is it? Tsu. Well, firstly, I'd like you to call me Tsu. Izuku. Oh, okay. Tsu, what's your question? Tsu. Your quirk seems very interesting and powerful. Most quirks as powerful as yours come with a pretty heavy downside. Kero, what's yours? Izuku. Oh, it's not much. Just turning to stone if I take in too much energy. Bakugo. You're saying that like you didn't give us all a scare when you first tried it. Damn nerd. Izuku turned to him. Izuku. It's fine, Kaken. As long as it doesn't spread past my wrists, I'm fine. Kirishima. Drawback or no, it's a pretty strong and flashy quirk, perfect for a pro. My hardening won't be able to compete. The red-haired boy hardened his arm. Kirishima. See? Not flashy at all. Not really that good for a pro. Izuku. It's not like that at all. With your quirk you can easily become a shield for citizens caught in crossfire and bulldoze your way through almost any attack. It's perfect for a hero. The boy smiled. Kirishima. Yeah, I guess you're right. He unhardened his arm and put it down. Kirishima. Bakugo's quirk is pretty good too. Tsu. Kero, yeah, but he wouldn't be that popular. Bakugo. I would be popular. Kaminari. Sorry man, that's what happens when your whole personality is based around being loud and nice to one person at a time. Bakugo, yelling. Say that again, you piece of shi. A notebook met the side of his head. Izuku. Please don't antagonize our classmates. Bakugo sat back down grumbling. Aizawa. Shut up, we're here. The bus slowly came to a stop and they got off. Then two people approached them, a hero in a space suit, and All Might. Hello Class 1A, I'm the Space Hero 13. She gestured behind her. 13. And this is the USJ. Chapter 7. 13. And this is the USJ. The class looked to the large facility behind her. Izuku then heard odd sounds, so he looked to his side. Uraraka seemed to be geeking out over seeing 13. Uraraka. Oh my god, it's 13, she's my favorite hero. 13. Please join me inside. The rescue hero proceeded to lead the class inside of the USJ. Once inside, the doors closed behind them and they looked around, amazed at how big the building really was. 13 began to speak once more. 13. The USJ, short for Unforeseen Simulation Joint. I created this facility to aid in the rescue training of young heroes in training such as yourselves. While this is technically UA property, we allow any and all hero schools to use it. Aizawa glanced around for a few seconds before walking over to 13. Aizawa, whispering. Where is All Might? 13, whispering. I sent him to check on a leak the system detected. Though that was a while ago. Aizawa groaned. Aizawa. Of course. The buffoon probably got lost. Kirishima. Will they even have fake villains? Everyone whipped their heads around to look to where Kirishima was looking. Down at the center of the USJ was large purple portal spewing out common thugs. Kaminari. Did the lesson start already? Aizawa quickly leapt in front of the class. Aizawa. Get back, they aren't fake, we're being invaded. Izuku stepped forward and opened his mouth to speak, but Aizawa cut him off. Aizawa. Midoriya, you need to ensure you and your classmates get out safely. With that said, he pulled his goggles up to his eyes and ran down the stairs towards the villain horde. Izuku turned to face the class. Izuku. You heard the man, let's go. They all began to run towards the exit, when another purple portal appeared, this time gaining yellow eyes. Hello, you must be Class 1A. Do you know where All Might is? He was supposed to be here. He gained no response. Oh well, a sudden change of schedule won't deter us. We'll simply kill you to lure him out. Bakugo and Kirishima rushed him. Bakugo, yelling. Not unless we beat you. They attacked, but they missed his body. 13, yelling. Get out of the way. She opened her finger caps and began to use her quirk, slowly disintegrating the misty villain. 13. While you are a noble hero, your designation as a rescue specialist gives away your lack of battlefield awareness. As he said this, he opened a warp gate behind her, causing her quirk to tear off the back of her costume and damage her actual back. Quickly becoming overwhelmed by her own quirk, she shut it off and fell to the ground. Now for you. He turned his attention to the class and opened several gates, many students falling in. Izuku fell in and wound up hitting the asphalt ground of the fire zone. After regaining his bearings, he stood up and found Ojiro was transported with him. Izuku. Ojiro, you okay? The tailed boy looked to Izuku. Ojiro. For the most part. Any idea where we are? Izuku nodded. Izuku. The fire zone. It's on the opposite side of the USJ than the entrance. Ojiro. So to get back. Izuku. We need to get through whatever villains are here and either go around the center and risk running into more, or cut through the center and hope Mr. Aizawa has finished with most of the ones there. Ojiro sighed. Ojiro. Should we wait for you to get ready first? Izuku thought for a moment before nodding. Izuku. Yes, we should. I'll go for Toad Sage mode so we won't be stuck here for too long. Izuku immediately entered a meditation pose and began taking in nature energy. He could only hope that the amount he's bringing in will be enough. Chapter 8. Deep underground, a maze of pipes and cables that fed the USJ all of its resources existed. It was dark and damp, and the only places where it wasn't either was scorching like a desert sun. Suddenly large hand reached out and turned a valve. The other hand, wielding a wrench, then tightened a large bolt. All Might brought his free hand back and wiped the sweat from his forehead. All Might. Couldn't 13 make this place easier to navigate? He turned the valve the opposite direction, opening it back up. All Might. Now I can go back up, hope Aizawa won't be too grumpy. He turned around and took one step, then a large vibration could be felt. All Might. I wonder who did that, probably young Tsunotori. He took another step, and every pipe around him began to spray water. His smile soon turned to a frown. All Might yelling, "Foo!" Izuku knocked out the last villain using before he and Ojiro made it to the exit of the fire zone. A large amount of water from the shipwreck zone flew into the air in the distance. Izuku and Ojiro saw Tsu and Tsunotori high in the air as they escaped the shipwreck zone. Ojiro. Looks like our classmates can take care of themselves at least. Izuku. Yeah. Izuku kneeled and began to concentrate. He felt a massive amount of energy in the center, on top of Aizawa. He quickly stood and turned to Ojiro. Izuku. We need to go. Ojiro. Why? Izuku. Mr. Aizawa is losing. There's a large presence in the center directly on top of him. Ojiro. Can't we just wait for All Might? Izuku shook his head. Izuku. All Might is down in whatever maintenance tunnels this place has. He most likely doesn't know about the attack. And think, these villains attacked a school that is known to have All Might as a teacher. They wouldn't do that unless they had a trump card that could either kill or stall him so they can do what they came to do. Ojiro looked down and thought for a moment before looking back up with a determined look. Ojiro. Right. Let's save Mr. Aizawa. They both then ran towards the center. Aizawa's head was being held by a large beast, and was erasing the quirk of a guy wearing a bunch of hands who was touching Tsu's face. You really are so cool, Eraserhead. Tsunotori then lunged from the water. Tsunotori, leave alone, yelling, smash. She then threw a punch at the man. In a blur the beast rushed to its master's side. Well, aren't you the heroic one? And this smash too. Are you one of All Might's disciples? Oh, it don't matter. Nomu, eliminate her. Izuku yelling. Get away from them. He lunged at the so-called Nomu. He swung and missed. You'll never get out alive with accuracy like that. Suddenly Izuku's frog Kumite barrier hit the Nomu, forcing its head to the side. Izuku Ojiro. Ojiro quickly jumped in, grabbed their three classmates, and jumped away. Izuku jumped back as well and they all landed beside Aizawa. Before the man could tell Nomu to do anything else, the portal villain appeared. What is a Kurojiri? Kurojiri. Forgive me, Tamura Shigaraki, but one of the students has escaped. Hero backup will be here shortly. Shigaraki then began to scratch his neck. Shigaraki. Kurojiri, if you weren't our warp gate, I'd destroy you. He suddenly stopped scratching and became unnervingly calm. Shigaraki. Oh well, no use complaining about it now. But before we leave, we may as well make our attack hurt. Nomu, destroy these pests. The hulking creature rushed them at speeds they couldn't react. Its first target was Tsunotori, but suddenly a large amount of vines appeared beneath it, trapping one leg. Ice then appeared from its other side, freezing its other leg. Izuku, Shiozaki. Ojiro, Todoroki. Ibara and Todoroki made their way over to the group. Todoroki. Is this their trump card? Ibara. They're foolish if they think this thing can defeat All Might. Izuku. That may be true, but we must defeat it now before it gets the chance to fulfill its purpose. Tsu. Midoriya is right. Karo, if this thing was made for All Might, then we should at least weaken it before he shows up. Ibara. Midoriya. I believe Snake will be of use here. Izuku nodded. Izuku. I thought the same. He sat down and entered his meditation pose. Izuku. Shiozaki will guard me. Everyone else let loose. With that said, a thick dome of vines surrounded Izuku, and the others charged the Noma. A crunch could be heard as Tsunotori's arm was snapped like a twig. She sent one last horn at the Noma, but it merely bounced off. She then fell unconscious. Tsu was unconscious next to Aizawa. Todoroki was frosted and kneeling next to a bleeding Bakugo who had joined the fight. Shiozaki was tired but otherwise unharmed. It took a lot of vines to keep the beast away from Izuku. The still conscious of the group watched as Bakugo's latest attack on its head, the only attack to do damage, was healed in seconds. It took note of the vine dome and rushed it. Shiozaki went to throw more vines at it, only to fall over in exhaustion. Ibara yelling Midoriya. An impact was heard. A cloud of dust was formed. Silence followed. Then a loud, hearty laughter was heard. Not the laughter of evil from the Noma. Not soul-chilling laughter of insanity and evil. No, this laughter was different. This laughter warmed their hearts, it filled their souls with hope. As the dust cleared, it was revealed that the Noma's fist was caught by an equally large hand that seemingly sprouted from the concrete like a determined flower in the city. Another round of laughter was heard. Then the source lifted itself from the concrete, slowing standing to his full 7 feet 3 inches, his large frame standing just short of the creature's own. The large tufts of blonde hair stood tall despite how drenched the man was. The smile on his face wavered only slightly in the anger that was plastered on his face. All Might. Everything will be okay now, why? Because I am here. Chapter 9. All Might took note of his surroundings. Tsunotori and Aizawa were unconscious, Todoroki nearly completely frosted over, Bakugo bleeding heavily, Ibara drained of her strength, and a dome of vines he could only guess were protecting Izuku. It wasn't looking good. With his free hand, All Might punched the Noma and sent it backwards several feet. He then quickly moved everyone out of the area, minus Izuku who remained within his protective dome. All Might. So you're the mastermind behind this? Shigaraki. Maybe, maybe not. All Might. It wasn't smart of you to attack the very place I work. Not without a plan. Shigaraki. Oh, but I do. Noma. Noma charged towards All Might who blocked the punch it threw, however he was pushed back a little. All Might. So he's strong, so what? He released his guard and punched the Noma once more, only for its skin to jiggle with no sign of movement. Seeing this, All Might jumped back. Shigaraki. Shock absorption. Like it? The only way to defeat him is to slowly gouge out his flesh. Though I don't believe he'll let you. Without saying a word, All Might rushed the Noma again. After trading a few punches he disappeared and reappeared behind the Noma. All Might. Thank you for telling me how to beat him. He wrapped his arms around the Noma, lofted it up, and bent backwards, intending to land a suplex on it. However, the impact never came. Instead, All Might found himself being held by the Nomu while they were both halfway inside a purple warp gate. Shigaraki. Trying to bury him? My, that won't do at all. Kurogyri. While I normally despise making a mess of my warp gates, I can make an exception for you, All Might. The portal began to close. All Might tried to squirm out of the Nomu's grasp, only for it to grab on tighter and even reopen his wound. All Might, damn it. Is this really how I end? Trapped by a few organized street thugs? White Rage attack. Shigaraki and Kurogyri turned to the voice to see Izuku, now with purple coloring around his eyes. He was spouting a red dragon from his mouth, and its claws was an orb. He closed what seemed to be an extra eyelid as the dragon coiled around the orb. Suddenly, the immediate area was filled with a blinding light and a deafening ringing. Shigaraki fell to the floor. He was in great pain as well as blind and deaf. When the attack ended, Izuku and All Might were several feet away. All Might was clutching his side as he opened his eyes. All Might. Good thinking, young Midoriya. Mph. Izuku. That thing got your wound. How long do you think you can go? All Might. Maybe 5 minutes before I'll be forced to power down. Izuku. So we need to end this quickly. All Might. Ordinarily I tell you to run, but I need you to hold off the other two if I'm to defeat Nomu. Izuku nodded. Izuku. I easily have 10 minutes of snake left. If I stagger my techniques, I can keep them busy long enough. All Might. All right. On your signal. Izuku clapped his hands together. Izuku now. He pressed his hands to the floor as All Might charged at his own opponent. Izuku. Sage art, inorganic animation. The floor around him seemed to come to life. Shigaraki and Kurogyri were caught off guard when the ground beneath them began to attack them. Shigaraki jumped only to get hit in the back. Kurogyri wasn't lucky enough to escape the first attack. The ground rose around him in tendrils that spiraled around him before returning to their original state, trapping him. Shigaraki flipped in the air and landed on his feet. Shigaraki. You're cheating. The final boss isn't allowed to split up the party with a lackey. Izuku. What? Final boss? Party? What are you on about? Shigaraki let out an annoyed grunt and charged Izuku. He swung his fist at the boy who dodged it and leapt backwards. Izuku. If you think this is a game, then you deserve the game over we're about to give you. Shigaraki charged again. This time Izuku simply avoided it and sent a punch to his stomach. This punch, while not as strong as one from Toad Sage mode, was still enough to throw Shigaraki back a few meters. What Izuku didn't realize was that he sent him towards Kurogyri. Shigaraki. Thanks, brat. He touched the concrete that kept his companion trapped, which caused cracks to appear as it began to fall apart. Soon it was weak enough for Kurogyri to break out of, which he did. Shigaraki. I think it's Abu. All Might, yelling, plus Yotaree. Izuku and the two villains turned to look at the fight between All Might and Nomu just to see the beast get sent flying through the roof of the building. Suddenly, a warp gate opened behind Izuku and Shigaraki pounced on him. The man's rage and adrenaline gave him the strength to pin Izuku to the ground. Shigaraki, yelling, you cheated. He thrusted his hand towards Izuku's face and used his other one to swat away Izuku's attempt at defense. The hand was millimeters from Izuku's face when bang 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 bang. 4 gunshots were heard and each of Shigaraki's limbs suddenly had bullet holes in them. Izuku looked to where he heard them to see the UA staff. Niza stood on Midnight's shoulders. Niza loudly. Sorry everyone, it took a while to get all the teachers. We are here now, you are safe. More gunshots from Snipe rang out, the bullets intended for Shigaraki. Kurogyri quickly protected his companion and warped the both of them away. The fight was over, the day was won, and the students were safe. Chapter 10. It had been a few days since the USJ attack. UA had given the students a couple days to unwind at home and sort through what happened. Now Izuku was sitting in a nearby park, meditating. He sensed a familiar presence approach him. Izuku. All Might? He stopped meditating and turned around, seeing the hero in his frail form. He was limping. All Might. Hello, young Midoriya. Might I have your attention for a minute? Izuku nodded. Izuku. Of course. Is it about your injury? All Might paused but then nodded. All Might. It hasn't returned to how you healed it on its own. I fear even if you do heal it, my time will be halved. Maybe even worse than that. Izuku sighed. Izuku. Lay down. He patted the ground next to him, and Blonde Man did as Izuku requested. Izuku closed his eyes and the target-like markings of slug appeared on his face. He held his hands out and they began to glow green. Izuku opened his eyes. Izuku. Lift your shirt. All Might did so and Izuku moved his hands just over the man's massive wound. The green energy enveloped it and began to repair what it could. Izuku. All Might, you say you're afraid of your time being shortened. We both know that even using your power does that already, so what is it you're really scared of? All Might let out a shaky sigh. All Might. Not being around when I'm needed. Especially when you or the others need me. If another incident like the USJ happens and you students aren't properly trained yet, my absence could lead to grim consequences. Izuku nodded. Izuku. That's true. But you should also embrace your time restraint. Begin to back off from the public eye, allow the current heroes to learn how to deal with villains without you. All Might. You've been spending too much time with young Shiozaki. Izuku chuckled. Izuku. Maybe. A minute later and Izuku finished the healing, though the wound was much worse than the last time he had. Izuku. Yeah, whatever that Noma guy did, it did a number on your wound. Another fight like that and you'll be lucky to last an hour in your muscle form. All Might nodded and stood up. Izuku did too and All Might watched as the markings disappeared from Izuku's face. All Might. As you know, school is going to start up again in a couple days. Be ready. Izuku. For what? All Might smirked. All Might. You'll see. Aizawa. Your fight isn't over yet. The classroom filled with murmurs of prospective villains when their bandage-covered teacher spoke up again. Aizawa. The UA Sports Festival is approaching. Kirishima. But why? After a large-scale villain attack, that seems kinda dumb. Aizawa. While it may seem that way, holding this event will tell the villains we're already back on our feet and that all their attack did was slow us down. The class could feel Aizawa's stare through the bandages. Aizawa. This event will also help you all gain the attention of full-on pros, who might want to recruit you as a sidekick. You have 1 chance a year, 3 chances in a lifetime. You cannot afford to lose this opportunity. A small discussion within the class took place, and then they moved on with their day. Later, All Might was dismissing them from their heroics class. All Might. And that is all for this section of the Code of Heroics. See you all tomorrow. He quickly rushed out of the door, closing it behind him. Izuku and Bakugo approached the door to leave, only to be met by a crowd of fellow students when the door opened. Uraraka, whoa! Kaminari. What are they doing here? Kirishima. Ah man. I just want some lunch. Bakugo studied them briefly. Bakugo. They're scouting the competition. Izuku. Kaken, don't you dare. Bakugo. Move it, you extras. So this is the mighty one, eh? A lot more self-centered than I'd hoped. A tired-looking boy with purple hair stepped up. His words had the entire class' attention. Tired. So you beat some villains? So what? Izuku. What are you trying to say? Tired. That the only reason you're all here is because of those fancy quirks of yours. After all, you don't think you're the only ones who wanted to be a hero, right? Plenty of us were forced to take general studies. He paused to let his words sink in before continuing. Tired. Though if oh. Izuku. Take that back. The boy looked surprised. Tired. What? Izuku. I said take it back. The boy looked confused. Tired. Take what back? Izuku. What you said about our quirks, take it back. Tired. Why should I? Izuku. Because you're wrong. He frowned. Tired. How so? Izuku. It isn't our quirks that got us here. It was our training. The boy scoffed. Izuku, if you can't see that, then I'll make you see it in the sports festival. The tired boy smirked. Tired? And what do you lose if you can't? Izuku looked him in the eyes. Izuku, my seat in 1A. Chapter 11. It was the day of the sports festival. 2 weeks had passed since Class 1A were confronted outside their classroom. Now, they were sitting inside their waiting room inside the arena used for the sports festival. Izuku was meditating to pull in nature energy when he felt a tap on his shoulder. He looked up to see Todoroki, who clearly had something to say, so he stood up. Izuku. Yes, Todoroki? Todoroki. Midoriya. I think it's safe to say that you and me are the strongest in this class. Just know that I will defeat you today. Izuku. Really? A threat is all you had to say? You could have said anything else from a good luck or just a challenge. But you decided to outright claim you'll beat me and everyone else here. I know you're only talking about quirks when you say strength. Izuku stepped closer to Todoroki. Izuku. To me, that makes you no different from that boy who claimed we're only here because our quirks are special. At least he's going to be trying his best in the festival. Todoroki's calm face flashed into anger for a split second before returning to normal. Todoroki. You know nothing. Izuku. Oh, I know something all right. You're angry. Ever since the first day at UA, not a day of class has gone by where I haven't sensed the hate you hold within. You may act cold and calculating, but there is a burning rage just beneath your surface. I suggest letting go of your anger before you run out of steam and break down. Kirishima got between them as Todoroki began to step forward. Kirishima. Whoa, guys, let's all calm down. Izuku. Yeah. Don't want to tire too quickly. A buzzer in their room then sounded, alerting the class that it was their time. Izuku. Alright guys, let's move. The class all collectively got up and left the room, finding their way to a tunnel. As they neared the exit of the tunnel, they could hear President Mike introducing them. President Mike. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the hero class that survived a villain attack, Class 1A. As the class exited the tunnel, the crowds cheered for them. The rest of the classes appeared with significantly less enthusiasm from the crowd. Izuku could feel the discontent pouring from the other classes. They had all stopped in front of a small stage with a wheel-like device on it that Midnight quickly appeared on. Needless to say, the discontent immediately dulled. Midnight. Welcome everyone to the first year sports festival. I will be the director this year. Before we begin, however, Katsuki Bakugo, as the first year representative, you need to give a speech. Bakugo walked out from the crowd and up to the stage where the woman gave him the microphone. Bakugo. Alright, listen up to all of you that I'm going to be facing today. I'm not going to hold back, so you shouldn't either. And to those I won't get to face, better luck next year. I'm going to win and I won't go down without a fight. He handed the microphone back and walked back to his place. Midnight. What an inspirational speech. Now, to choose the first event. She swung the wheel next to her and after a few seconds, it landed on obstacle race. Midnight. Obstacle race. The students will have to make one full lap around the outside of the arena while having to deal with several obstacles. You can hinder each other's progress, but you cannot directly attack each other. Line up at the tunnel and wait for the buzzer. The students did as she told them. As they waited, Izuku walked over to the tired boy from 2 weeks prior. Izuku. You know, it took a while, but now I recognize you. I saw you at the entrance exam. I saved you from a group of robots with my oil. The boy turned to look at him. Tired? Yeah, well, as you can see, I didn't get in. At least your quirk let you short-circuit them. What is yo? The buzzer went off and the race started. Izuku. See you on the other side. His eyes became surrounded by the purple markings of snake. He clapped his hands together, and a pair of third eyelids covered his eyes. Izuku. White rage attack. The familiar dragon flew from his mouth and into the tunnel. It coiled around the orb and instantly incapacitated the other students, letting Izuku quickly take the lead. President Mike. Whoa, I could hear that from here. What was it? Aizawa. That is an ability of Midoriya's snake mode. From what we've seen, it emits a blinding light and a deafening ringing. Izuku exited the tunnel. Aizawa. But he'll need more than just that to get through this challenge. Izuku stopped as a large shadow loomed over him. President Mike. That's right, starting with Midoriya, the mechanical bloodbath of Robo Inferno is about to start. Chapter 12. A large metallic fist hit the ground where Izuku just was. Luckily, he was faster than these robots, including the smaller 1 to 3 pointers scattered around. Suddenly, a large amount of ice rose from the ground and froze the 0 pointers solid. Todoroki then ran past Izuku. Todoroki. Careful, they're off balance. Izuku's eyes widened. Was he crazy? Kirishima is the only participant guaranteed to survive these robots. Instead of going forward, Izuku put his hands together and touched the ground. Izuku, inorganic animation. The ground around him began to move as if it was fluid before large pillars of rock and dirt shot towards the robots, catching them as the ice cracked. Izuku fell to one knee and his face markings disappeared. He had run through Snake much faster than he intended. As other students ran past him, something wrapped around him and pulled him forward. Vines. Ibra pulled him up to her lace and set him down so he could keep running. Izuku, thanks. She gave him a small smile. Ibra. No need. You would have done the same. Izuku nodded and both of them began to run faster. Back in the commentator's booth, Aizawa and Mike sat, watching the feed. Mike. Wow, Eraser, what was that move Midoriya pulled this time? Aizawa pulled out a small notepad and flipped a couple pages. Aizawa. He calls it inorganic animation. In short, he's able to freely control any non-living thing in an area surrounding him. The size depends on how much energy he's willing to spend. Unfortunately for him, it seems using these techniques in such a short time has caused his quirk to deactivate. He's running the rest of the race powerless. As the crowd reacted to this information, Mike muted their microphones. Mike. This Midoriya kid. He's something else. Aizawa nodded and turned to loom at Mike through Huss bandages. Aizawa. He is. His quirk, calling it versatile would be an understatement. From what I've seen, Toad can handle close and mid-range, Snake can handle agility and long range, and Slug shines in how creative he can be with it. Apparently, he can heal wounds using Slug as well. Mike leaned back in his chair. Mike. Man, your class this year is just full of heavy hitters, isn't it? Aizawa. The question is, how will they grow? We've both seen heroes with powerful quirks neglect training and crash and burn because of it. Mike. Yeah. Aizawa. Mike. They're coming up to the next obstacle. The blond man immediately sat up and turned their mics back on. Mike. Students are approaching the next obstacle, the pit. As Mike finished announcing the next obstacle, Izuku and Ibra made it to the edge of a cliff. They faced an extremely large pit with platforms of cables to cross. Izuku approached a cable and began to cross by crawling on all fours in the distance. He noticed several others doing the exact same. It took several minutes, but he was able to make it across. As he rose to his feet, he realized he had fallen behind, so he began running to catch up. A couple minutes later, he came across the next obstacle. Mike. The last obstacle has been encountered. A minefield filled with non-lethal explosives. Izuku noticed a pattern as other students got blown back by the mines. To test this discovery, he picked up a rock and tossed it onto where he believed a mine would be. He smiled as a mine exploded. He ran towards the minefield and jumped onto the front of a mine, getting launched forwards. He repeated this process a couple more times, making it into the tunnel behind Tsunotori, Bakugo, Todoroki. Not willing to lose his place, he took off in a sprint, passing the finish line and claiming 4th place. The rest of the students joined them quickly, with the last emerging 5 minutes after Izuku finished. As the race ended, Midnight reappeared on the platform. Midnight. All right, attention please. As everyone turned to face her, she continued. Midnight. Only the first 42 move on to this next event, which is... She spun the wheel once more and after several seconds, it landed on cavalry battle. Midnight. A cavalry battle you will split into teams of 3 or 4. Each time will have one designated rider and at least 2 horses. Each team will have a headband that has their total points on the front. Your objective will be to protect your own headband while either running from teams who want to take it or targeting other teams to take theirs. Taken headbands must be worn from the neck up. Get too greedy and you won't be able to see. A holographic chart appeared in the air above her, showing names and numbers. Midnight. The points go up by 5 starting at 42nd place and going all the way up to 10 million points for first place. Izuku, along with everyone else, sent a predatory glare at Todoroki. Many just wanted to win, others had something to prove. Few just wanted to take him down. Midnight. Split up and form your teams, you have 15 minutes. The cavalry battle would start soon, and Izuku would be sure to win it. Chapter 13. Izuku stood with his newly formed team. Ibara, Uraraka, and Tokoemi. He had picked those 3 because of their quirks, and how well they could work together. Izuku had the team huddle together so he could share a plan he came up with. Izuku. Okay, so here's my plan. Tokoemi, you'll be the rider, that way Dark Shadow can freely move around to protect us all. Tokoemi. A reasonable position. Izuku. Shiozaki, you'll be the front horse. Your vines can easily block frontal and side attacks as well as aid us in traversing. Ibara. I shall light the way. Izuku. And me and Uraraka will be in the back. Uraraka can easily touch us all if need be that way, and I'm the physically strongest here, so if she needs me to, I can take the weight. They all nodded, but Shiozaki spoke up again. Ibara. Why do I feel like there's more to this plan? Izuku smiled. Izuku. Because there is. I'll tell you as we start, but for the remaining 10 minutes, I need to absorb energy. They proceeded to break the huddle and Izuku took his meditation position. 10 minutes later. Izuku's team, along with all other participating teams, had gotten into formation and were waiting on Midnight to start the round. Ibara. Midoriya, now would be a good time to tell us what to do first. Izuku. Firstly, all you need to do is make us a protective dome. If this works right, we might not even have to worry about the other teams while getting points. Ibara. Alright. After a minute, Midnight spoke up again. Midnight. Now that all teams are in position, it's time to start 3, 2, 1, go. The buzzer sounded and the teams began to move. Izuku now. Ibara, right. As she began to form her protective dome, Izuku's face gained the markings of Slug Sage mode. Izuku. Here we go. He pressed his hands together, holding Tokoemi with his shoulder, as the ground beneath them began to crack. From the ground rose a tall tree, the top of which was flat, and just large enough for the team to stand with their thorny protection. Mike. Whoa, yet another extraordinary ability from Midoriya. What is this one eraser? Aizawa. That is the basic ability of his slug mode, the ability to create and manipulate wood. It's the most powerful of the 3 so far as well as the most taxing in terms of energy and stamina. As the announcers finished talking, the vines hiding the team began to shake and open up. From the vines leapt 4 versions of the team. Aizawa. Here is one technique Midoriya created recently, wood clone. The 4 versions of the team, including the real team, then spread out amongst their opponents. Each clone team even had a wooden Dark Shadow to go along with them. Mike. Geez, just how powerful is this kid? Aizawa. It's not his quirk that's gotten him this far. It's his training to increase his stamina as well as how much energy he can hold that did. Believe me, he'd be here even if he was quirkless. The real team was running along the border of the field, overlooking the fights. Uraraka. They look just like us. Ibara. And they're fighting like us too. Tokoemi. Even those dark shadows are accurate. Dark shadow. Yeah, kinda creepy. Izuku. Well, that's where the similarities end, unfortunately. My own clones can use limited wood techniques, but your clones can't use your quirks at all, only mimic them. Uraraka, due to that, yours are the most likely to get the others outed. So we stay grounded until the clones are gone. Uraraka. Understood. Ibara. Just how much training did you do, Midoriya? Izuku. A lot. If this were the me from our first training, or even the USJ, The amount of nature energy this took combined with the tree would leave my limbs covered in stone and unusable. As the group kept running, Uraraka's arm brushed up against Izuku's, which felt oddly stiff and rough. Up in the stands, a skinny All Might sat with the rest of the staff and watched as several headbands were stolen by the fake teams. Nizu. Quite remarkable, isn't it? All Might glanced to his left to see the rodent sitting next to him before looking back to the event. All Might. Yes, it is. To think that someone with this amount of power at this age exists naturally is amazing. Nizu. I know. Though I do wonder if his teammates know just what they left in that tree of theirs. All Might chuckled. All Might. I'm sure they'll find out soon. As the team kept running, they began to notice their clones begin to run at them. Izuku. Looks like they've all got a couple headbands. Tokoemi. But they aren't alone. The others looked closer to see several teams chasing their clones. Izuku. Stay here, I have a plan. He handed his part of Tokoemi's weight to Uraraka and took off towards the clone teams. Mike. What is Midoriya doing? Is he allowed to leave his team like that? Aizawa. As long as their rider doesn't touch the ground, it's fair game. The Tokoemi clones, which held the headbands, leapt from their teams and began to run towards the real team. When Izuku met them halfway, he extended both hands and they each slapped one of his hands, attaching wood to him. Now that they were connected, Izuku kept running until he met up with the teams. The Tokoyamis get to the real team and gave them the headbands. Izuku and the clones quickly locked arms to make a circle. Ibara. Midoriya, what are you doing? Izuku. My special move. Izuku began to turn brown in color, as did the clones, revealing himself to be one. Clone Izuku. I may not be the real Izuku, but with all the nature energy these guys still have, I can use my biggest move. He clasped his hands together, and the slug markings appeared once more. The ground around him and the clones began to crack into different spots. Izuku yelling. Sage Art, Deep Forest Emergence. As he and the clones turned the rest of the way into wood, several trees emerged from the ground, growing and spreading their roots quickly, cutting off their pursuers. Mike. Look at that, a quarter of the field is covered in trees, but where is the real Midoriya? As if to answer the radio host/hero's question, the tree Izuku originally created came to life. Branches extended and blunt wooden projectiles were launched at the forest, to deter anyone from entering, effectively protecting Izuku's team. After another minute, the buzzer rang out marking the end of the event, and Izuku revealed himself as his sage markings disappeared. His team emerged from the forest, showing that other than their own, they managed to get 5 more headbands. As they walked over to the tree, Izuku fell and Ibara caught him. After another minute, he was on his feet and Midnight walked onto the stage, though half of it had been swallowed by Izuku's trees. Midnight. That was quite a performance, but even with something as flashy as that, you aren't guaranteed a victory. Let's see the point totals. Take it away, Mike. The screen behind her lit up and showed the points each team had. Mike. Let's see here. In first place, holder of the 10 million points, Team Todoroki. In second place, the team everyone fought, Team Tokoemi. Coming in third, Team Bakugo. And finally, in fourth place is Team Shinso? When did they get headbands? Izuku and his team cheered. They had made it to the next event. Chapter 14. Izuku and his team made their way to the cafeteria to get some food. Ordinarily, the break between the second event and the tournament would be around half an hour, but due to a few unexpected trees, it would take an extra hour for the preparations to be complete. Just before they entered the cafeteria, however, Bakugo approached them. Izuku, already knowing why, began to back away with his hands in his pockets. Izuku. Oh, hey Kak and W, what do you need? Bakugo sighed. Bakugo. Shut it and show me your hands, nerd. Izuku scoffed. Izuku. What? Why? Bakugo. Do it. Izuku looked at his teammates, the only one not confused being Ibara. Ibara. Just do as he says, Midoriya. Izuku, defeated, sighs and slowly pulls them out. Izuku grabbed one and brought it out for the whole team to see. Bakugo. I knew it. Uraraka. Knew what? The tips of Izuku's fingers had been turned to stone. Bakugo, yelling. The damn nerd overused his quirk, that's what. Izuku took his hand back. Izuku. Relax, it'll go back to normal. Bakugo groaned and pinched his nose. Bakugo. Deku, the last time this happened it was up to your elbows. Izuku. It's been years since then, and besides, it's just my fingertips. A couple days and I'll be better than ever. Bakugo sighed and began to walk into the cafeteria, saying something to Ibra on his way in. Bakugo. Keep an eye on him. Ibra. Of course. After he walked past them, the group walked inside themselves. After getting some food, they sat down at a table. Tokoyami and Uraraka on one side and Izuku and Ibra on the other. Uraraka. Midoriya, what exactly does happen when you go past your limit? Izuku held up his hand to show his fingers. Izuku. If I take in or use too much energy, I start to turn to stone. It reverses after a while though, thankfully. Tokoyami. How long do you think it'll be until your fingers are free? Izuku shrugged. Izuku. 3 days most likely. Ibra. 3 days? For just that little? Izuku put his hand down and turned to her. Izuku. Yeah, it took nearly 2 weeks for my forearms to recover last time. Ibra. You're just being reckless. Izuku shook his head. Izuku. No, I'm making a point. The other three went quiet for a moment. Tokoyami. This is about the boy with bags under his eyes, isn't it? Izuku nodded. Izuku. To show him we're here because of our skills, not our quirks, I'll fight him without using mine. Uraraka. But you can't beat the rest of our class without it. Ibra. Uraraka is right, Midoriya. Without your quirk or any weapons, you won't win the tournament. Izuku. I know. But there's someone else I want to face like this. He's strong, but if I can hit him just once, it'll turn out alright. The others all knew who he was talking about, Todoroki. He had declared he would defeat Izuku and win the sports festival before it started. They then began to eat. An hour and a half later. Mike. The third event is about to begin, are you ready? The crowd cheered as President Mick's voice filled the arena. Down in the center stood a concrete platform created for the tournament. Izuku was stood on one of the large hallways leading to the center. Mike. For the first round, we have a match that both their classes have been waiting for. Izuku walked out of his exit and up to the platform. Mike. Izuku Midoriya, the unpredictable powerhouse of a sage versus. The purple-haired boy walked onto the platform as well. Mike. Hitoshi Shinso, who has defied all odds to be here. Shinso spoke up. Shinso. I saw your little display. Did you give up on our bet yet? Izuku shook his head and held his hand up. Izuku. Not at all, see this? Shinso looked confused. Shinso. Why are your fingers all gray? Izuku. Simple, I overused my quirk, they're made of stone for now. You understand what that means, right? Shinso frowned. Shinso. What? Izuku. I'm coming at you without my quirk. They then heard Midnight's voice. Midnight. Are you two ready? They both nodded, so she rose her hand. Midnight. Ready. Set. Fight. She swung her hand down, starting the fight. Neither boy moved. Shinso. What's it like? Having a powerful quirk like yours? Izuku stayed quiet. Shinso. What's wrong? No more comebacks in that empty head of yours? I mean, it's clear that Vine Girl is the brains behind your little tricks. Izuku knew something was up. Why wasn't Shinso attacking? Shinso. Did that monkey say something to you? Izuku began to run towards Shinso. Shinso. Running in head first? You really are all brawn and no brains. Shinso realized his plan wasn't going to work. Far too late to do anything as Izuku closed the distance between them and punched him in the stomach, sending Shinso tumbling backwards. The boy slowly climbed to his feet. Shinso. What's wrong with you? Are you deaf all of a sudden? Retort say something. Another punch, this one to the chest, making him tumble again, landing just inside the ring. Izuku slowly walked over to him as he stood again. Shinso threw a punch, but Izuku sidestepped it. He then places his palm on Shinso's chest and pushed him out of bounds. Midnight. Midoriya is the winner. As the crowd began to cheer for Izuku, he stood over Shinso. Izuku, you talk a lot about how quirks got my class so far. Yet your strategy was to use yours to overpower me, wasn't it? Shinso stayed quiet. Izuku, it was my skills, not in combat, but in deduction and analysis that won me this fight. I admit you would have fooled just about most of my class into stepping into your trap, but you were too single-minded. Work out, train, find better ways to engage your enemy. Then, you'll be on your way to becoming a hero. Izuku held out his hand, and Shinso took it before being pulled up. Shinso smirked. Shinso, you get to keep your spot in the hero course. But I'm coming for it next year, got it? Izuku laughed. Izuku, I'll be on my toes. With that said, they both went back to their exit points to rejoin their classes in their seats. Chapter 15. Izuku was walking through the halls, trying to quickly get back to his class to watch the rest of the first round. He rounded a corner and came face to chest with someone. He backed up to get a good look at who it was, though by the heat radiating from the man, he could already tell who it was. Izuku looked up and into the eyes of the flame hero himself, Endeavor. Izuku. Sorry, sir. I wasn't looking where I was going. Endeavor narrowed his eyes. Endeavor. It is, all right. Have you seen Shoto? Izuku. Not since the cavalry battle. Endeavor grunted before sighing. Endeavor. That boy, always disappearing. He patted Izuku's shoulder. Endeavor. I apologize for wasting your time, boy. Midoriya, was it? Izuku, now confused, nodded. Endeavor. If you see him, tell him we need to talk. He walked past Izuku, who just stood there. This is Endeavor, the man that Izuku was sure was behind Todoroki's anger? That doesn't make sense, he was so polite. Izuku turned around. Izuku. Sir. Endeavor stopped and partially turned around. Endeavor. Yes? Izuku. I don't mean to pry, but is there a reason Todoroki hates you? Endeavor raised an eyebrow and turned to face Izuku fully. Endeavor. Not that I can think of. Why? Izuku. It's just that he doesn't use his fire, and every time it's brought up, he freaks out and gets incredibly angry. Not only that, my quirk lets me sense the life force of people around me, and he seems to be angry all the time. Endeavor hummed in thought. Endeavor. That doesn't make sense. But he has been distant lately. Izuku. I can keep an eye on him at school for you if you want, sir. If this really is abnormal for him, it might be for the best. Endeavor. If you could. I'll tell All Might to give you my number. Good luck on your next fight, Midoriya. With that said, Endeavor turned around and continued to walk away. Izuku also turned around and walked to 1A's seats to sit down and watch the fights. Once he got there, he found an open seat next to Bakugo and sat down. As he did so, a large glacier suddenly appeared in the middle of the arena. It towered over the stadium walls and even entered some of the seating areas. Izuku. I guess it's safe to assume Todoroki won. Bakugo faked a scoff. Bakugo. What gave you that idea? Izuku heard movement behind him and turned to see Ibara standing up. Ibara. Looks like it's my turn now. Izuku. Good luck. Bakugo. Kick Sparky's ass, greenhouse. She left the 1A seats and headed towards the waiting room to await her match. The first round of one-on-one matches had finished. Ibara defeated Kaminari easily using her vines, and Bakugo was able to beat Uraraka, though it was a tough fight for both of them. Izuku was once again in the hallway leading to the arena. This fight would be hard, much harder than Shinso. He was fighting Todoroki, one of the strongest in their class, and he was doing it without his quirk. Izuku took in a deep breath and let it out before starting his walk onto the platform. As he did, Mike began to call out their names. Mike. On to the fight many have been waiting for since they won their round 1 fights. Izuku Midoriya, the one who extended the festival with one move versus Shoto Todoroki, the only competitor whose quirk affected the audience themselves. Izuku and Todoroki stood across from each other on the arena platform and locked eyes. Midnight raised her hand. Midnight, are you two ready? Todoroki, yes. Izuku nodded. Izuku, as I'll ever be. Midnight then threw her hand down. Midnight, fight. Todoroki shifted his right foot and sent a wave of ice at Izuku, who jumped to the side to avoid it. As soon as he landed, Izuku began to run at Todoroki, who sent another wave of ice. Izuku again avoided the ice and continued his approach. Todoroki sent yet another ice attack at Izuku and managed to hit him, though the expectation of a dodge made the ice only hit Izuku back. Izuku rolled along the ground before hitting a previous ice attack, stopping his roll. He stood up. Todoroki, Midoriya, give up. Izuku, make me. Todoroki attacked again, but Izuku sidestepped the ice and took a few steps forward. Todoroki, you can't win this without your quirk. Izuku, who says I'm not using it? Todoroki became confused as he sent another ice attack, that Izuku once again avoided before advancing just a little. Todoroki, but you can't use your power. Izuku, my quirk isn't all power. Another avoided attack. Izuku could see the frost forming on Todoroki's right side. Todoroki, what does that even mean? Izuku, it means I know my quirk inside and out. And from how you're fighting, it's clear I understand my whole quirk more than you understand your cold side. More frost appeared as he attacked Izuku again, but this one was slower, easily avoided. Izuku, my quirk doesn't just let me absorb natural energy, it lets me sense life as well. Humans don't contain the energy I absorb, but they do have life. Quirks are an extension of a person, meaning their affects also don't have nature energy, but they do contain the life essence of the person. Todoroki, so? The next attack was barely even an attack. Izuku, so I can sense where your ice is heading before it even forms as you extend your life energy into the ground to make it. Todoroki attempted a sneak attack by making a piece of ice grow more ice and aimed a blunt attack at Izuku's head, but the green-haired boy tilted his head, making the ice miss. Izuku, you're getting beaten by half of my quirk. The half that most would call weak. Izuku got in Todoroki's face. Izuku, so what would that make you? Izuku wound back his arm and punched Todoroki in the chest. The cold-hearted boy hadn't moved from his side of the platform, so the punch knocked him out of bounds. While he had planned to make Todoroki use his fire, the conversation with Endeavor made Todoroki's actions suspicious to Izuku. He would need to his classmate to stay how he was to get to the bottom of what was happening. Mike. And the winner is Izuku Midoriya. Izuku walked back into the stadium halls to watch the rest of the round. Chapter 16. A few minutes after his and Todoroki's match ended, Izuku found his way back up to the student seating as Ibra was leaving for her match against Ida. Izuku, hey. She turned and looked at him. Izuku, good luck. She smiled and nodded. Ibra, may God smile upon me today. With that said, she walked past him. Izuku quickly found his seat next to Bakugo again. The blonde boy began to talk. Bakugo, that was pretty ballsy, fighting that moody candy cane like that. Izuku, yeah, I know. But I had to for his sake. I don't know why, but he has a hatred for his father that I have a feeling won't go away with a nice conversation. Izuku looked at his stone-covered fingertips. Izuku, besides, I need to get used to fighting like that if I want to even have a chance against you, Shiozaki, or Ida. Plus, it'll be good practice for the future too. Izuku looked back up to see Ibra and Ida on the arena pad. They both nodded to Midnight, and the woman swung her arm down. Midnight, start. The match lasted less than 10 seconds as Ida immediately activated his engines and pushed Ibra out of bounds. Bakugo. Geez. Have fun beating that. Don't think your dumbass sixth sense is gonna save you. Izuku sighed. Izuku. Yeah. Ida's probably who's gonna beat me. Ashido and Tokoimi got up from their seats and left as Ibra and Ida disappeared back into their respective hallways. Izuku and the rest of the spectators watched as Bakugo easily overpowered Kirishima. Kirishima fell to the ground exhausted, and the buzzer went off. Mike. Katsuki Bakugo wins. Izuku smiled and began to stand up when President Mike spoke again. Mike. Unfortunately, Tenya Ida cannot fight in the semi-finals against Izuku Midoriya. Due to this, we will be proceeding with Tokoyami vs. Bakugo as soon as possible. Izuku. What? He looked around before realizing Ida had never returned from his fight. He then stood still and focused just to find that Ida wasn't in his range either. He had left the entire arena building. Tokoyami then stood up and left as Bakugo stayed on the fighting platform. Ibara. Strange. Ida has never skipped out on something before. I wonder what has happened. Izuku. Same here. He then sat back down. Ibara. I wouldn't do that, Midoriya. Izuku. HM? Why not? Ibara. Because Bakugo has already discerned Tokoyami's weakness. His demonic counterpart, Dark Shadow, is weak to light. Bakugo will win this battle quickly. Instead, you should start preparing for your fight, the final. Izuku nodded. Izuku. Alright. You say that like Kaken's going to give me an opportunity to fight back. Ibara. Yeah. Good luck though. Izuku. Thanks. He got up and left Class A seating. As he reached his waiting room, he heard President Mick's voice. Mike. Katsuki Bakugo wins. That mean all that's left is the finals. Will give the two competitors 5 minutes to prepare. If you need to use the bathroom, do it now. Izuku breathed a sigh of relief. At least he'd get a bit of time to prepare for the beating he's about to receive. He slapped his cheeks. Izuku. No, I can do more than just get thrashed around by Kaken. It might not be much, but I should at least be able to sense whenever he unleashes an explosion. He clenched his fists. Izuku. Yeah, I can do this. I'm still gonna lose, but I can at least put up a fight. 5 minutes later. Mike. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the final match? The entire crowd cheered as loud as they could as Izuku and Bakugo walked into their arena. Mike. It's Class 1A's biggest powerhouses, Izuku Midoriya, Master of Sages vs. Katsuki Bakugo, the demigod of destruction. Both boys chuckled. Izuku. That's a little dramatic, wouldn't you say, Kaken? Bakugo. Just a little. But I gotta say, I like my title. Might put it in my hero name. Ready to get destroyed, nerd? Izuku. As I'll ever be. Midnight. I'll take that to mean you two are ready? They both nodded. Midnight. Excellent. She raised her arm. Mike. It's about to start. And promptly waved it down, starting the match. Izuku dropped to the ground, just barely avoiding Bakugo's initial attack. Bakugo, who had boosted over using an explosion, immediately used one to stop his acceleration and a second to launch himself higher into the air before starting to fly around the arena. Izuku stood up and started watching his friend. Bakugo, yelling. I know what you're capable of, Midoriya. I'm not stupid enough to fight you on the ground. Izuku, yelling. You also know that giving me time to make a plan is a mistake. Bakugo knew Izuku was superior at drawn-out close-range fights, so he took to the sky. He also knew that without access to his Sage modes, Izuku was relying on his sensory ability to dodge his explosions. Both of these facts put both boys at a disadvantage with no real advantage on either side. Neither could actually hit the other if both these facts stayed in play. However, unlike Izuku, Bakugo had the power to change that. Bakugo dove down and landed on the ground before he started to run. As he did, he used explosions behind him to speed himself up and in doing so, began to gather dust and debris from the stage. Using that in combination with the smoke created by his explosions, he created a dense smoke screen that enveloped the entire stage. Izuku. So that's your plan. I can't attack if I can't see you, and if I'm too focused on finding you or clearing the smoke, you can attack freely. Bakugo responded from somewhere within the smoke. Bakugo. I'll leave it to you to figure it out. Though that isn't all. Izuku sensed Bakugo in front of him, but got hit in the back by a fist, sending him tumbling forward. Izuku. What? Bakugo. Like it? Izuku got up and guarded in the direction of Bakugo's energy, but Go hit in the back of his knee, sending him down again. He got back on his feet and waited. Bakugo was behind him now, so he punched in front of him just for an explosion to hit his back and send him forward. Izuku. How? Bakugo. You're the one who taught me this, figure it out. Izuku felt Bakugo's energy again, but instead of defending or attacking, he just rolled out of the way. All of a sudden he felt two really big spikes of energy behind him. Bakugo, yelling, blast away. Before he could dodge or defend himself, Izuku was launched out of the arena by a large explosion. He landed and rolled across the grass before being stopped by a wall. The explosions also cleared away the smoke screen, leaving Bakugo in full view of the crowd. Mike. Katsuki Bakugo wins again. The crowd cheered the loudest they had that day. Bakugo jogged over to Izuku and extended his hand, which Izuku took. Izuku. Ow. Just what was that? Bakugo. Some misdirection and little trick I picked up from watching you. Izuku chuckled. Izuku. And I'm the nerd? Bakugo scoffed. Izuku. But really, what did you do? Bakugo. Like I said, figure it out. Now let's get you checked out by the old timer. He led Izuku inside the building and towards Recovery Girl's office. The sports festival was over, though they still had to get their medals. One thing still bothered Izuku, however. Where did Ida go?
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.